Your host, Will, and here with me is Sam Cashman, our resident expert. Sam, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about the book of Jonah. This is a book about a prophet who lived 700 years before Jesus. And so when you talk about something that's old, outdated, that nobody looks to for relevance, Jonah's a pretty good example, an old prophet that lots of people have forgotten. And so on Under the Hood, what we want to do is literally kind of take a look under the hood and see what is it about this book historically, with all the evidence and architecture, the social climate of the time, and see, why does this book matter for us? What can we mine from the pages of the book of Jonah?
So I think that's a great place to start. So as we get into the story, like what's going on in the world when the book of Jonah is written?
Well, you can imagine this is 2,700 plus years ago, and the world was just beginning to see these major empires that were taking over that region. So you'd seen the Egyptian Empire, you'd seen the Babylonian Empire, but now you have what's called the Neo-Assyrian Empire. These guys, the Assyrians, which is in like modern day Iraq, Iran, that area in the Middle East, they had been a big dog on the block before. They'd gone into decline, and now they're coming back. So it's called the new Assyrian Empire. And they are absolutely ferocious and terrible. And Israel, which is where Jonah lives, and the northern kingdom of Israel, has seen enemies coming from the north, the Aramaeans or the Syrians. And now he's watched as the Assyrians have come from the north, gone through the Aramaean region and conquered everything. He's seen how they treated their enemies, and now they're coming on the doorstep of Israel at this point in history. And the Assyrian Empire would have been absolutely hated and feared among the Israelites of that day.
Okay, so as the Assyrians are coming in, what would the people of Israel have felt? Like when they hear the name Assyria, when they hear the Assyrians, like how are they feeling that they're now outside their doorstep?
Terror. Okay. I mean, absolute abject terror. What you see with the Assyrians is you can go, and they've uncovered in the last 150 years, archaeologists have uncovered so many cities of that region, including Nineveh, which is the city where Jonah was supposed to go. And you can go to museums around the world and find their artwork that was captured in stone carvings and everything else, and artwork that just celebrates the kind of cruelty that the Assyrians imposed on their victims. And so one of the things I'll show you there on friezes, you see here in this picture, here you have the Assyrians taking their captors, and you see one guy here that's slamming a mace into the side of a prisoner's head. Above him, you see one of their captors who's actually got ropes pulling his arms and legs outstretched so he can't defend himself, as one of the Assyrians is literally flaying him alive. You come down to the bottom of this and you see a guy pulling the hair, the other one is gouging out his eyes. You see this time and time again where the feet and the arms are pulled and they are filleting people. You see images like this one where the Assyrians are literally amputating,
Oh, wow.
without medicine, you know, their hands and feet and cutting off their heads. You see here, right behind this guy, a man who is literally impaled on a spike. And this is the kind of stuff that they decorated their palaces with. So they were proud of it. They reveled in it. And so all of their enemies, as they're seeing the Assyrians come, this is the first terroristic regime and probably the most terroristic regime in the history of the world. And so artwork after artwork, you see impalings, you see people having their eyes gouged out and their throats slit. You see paintings and friezes after friezes where you see all these heads piled up because they, like modern day ISIS, they absolutely loved to behead their enemies. And they would build little piles and they would decorate the landscape with all these skulls so that as people went through, they were reminded this is what happens when you stand in the way of the Assyrians. They would put poles made of skulls and use them for target practice. They would gouge out eyes. I mean, this is the kind of artwork, again, that they are decorating their living rooms with.
Oh, wow. So this stuff they're not trying to hide. This is like, hey, you come to a dinner party to the Assyrians' house and you walk in, tables all set, and bam, there's the relief of them just chopping
That's right.
people's heads off, feet off. Everything is on board for them.
Absolutely. This is what they celebrated. And as a result, when they came in conquest, more often than not, the enemies were like, spare us. You can have whatever you want, just spare us. And so the Israelites, which are right on the doorstep of Assyria's advance, began sending them tons of money. They were bribing them for peace. In fact, there are reliefs that we have today, big black pillars, where you see the artwork of the Israelite king Jehu, who is kneeling at the feet of the Assyrian king, giving him a massive payoff, begging him to not come through and do to Israel what at that point they had done to so many other neighbors.
Okay, wow. So what's Jonah's part in all of this? Why does Jonah even have anything to do with the Assyrians at this point?
So God made Jonah have
Oh, wow.
something
Okay.
to do with the Assyrians. So when you think of the Assyrians and you look at their artwork and you know their history, in your mind, what you're thinking is this is one of the most wicked cultures in the history of the world. And so God comes to Jonah at the very beginning of the book, the opening verses of this chapter, and he says, hey, Jonah, I want you, my most famous prophet of this time period, I want you to leave Israel, and I want you to travel the 700 miles or so to go to Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrians, and I want you to give them a message for me. And Jonah, who knows the character of God, knows that God is a God of grace and mercy. If Jonah thought God was going to scorch the Assyrians, he'd have done flips and jumping jacks because
Yeah.
Jonah hates
Hated.
these people. But God sends him and he says, I want you to go to Nineveh. And Jonah's like, I know who you are. I know that you're merciful and you're gracious. And these are the last people on earth that I want to experience the grace and forgiveness of God. And so because he hates the Assyrians, you probably heard it taught, that Jonah was racist. That's not, maybe, that was prevailing
part of it.
prevailing thought of the time. But the main idea is these Assyrians are especially wicked. Jonah's going to get in a boat and travel to a place called Tarshish. That's where he wants to go. He wants to go in the absolute opposite direction from Nineveh and travel 2,500 miles to Tarshish, which is on the coast of Spain, we believe, and the total opposite direction. And so he's going to a Gentile territory. It's not just that Jonah's anti-Gentile. He wants to go to a Gentile territory. He's anti-Assyrian because they are evil, cruel, merciless, awful people who are ruining the world. And he could make a good case for that.
Yeah, it's easy to understand Jonah's heart in all this, right?
Totally.
Like, he knows that his mission from a merciful God is to go and show mercy to a people that in his mind clearly didn't deserve mercy. He didn't want to give them mercy. He doubts that they would even receive the mercy. So he goes off in the other direction.
Yeah,
He just flees.
Imagine this. These people who revel in beheading people and gouging out their eyes and flaying them alive and amputating their hands and legs and all that we talked about. God comes to you and says, I want you to go and give them a message that they're in the wrong.
Yeah.